Captain Sarah Chen stared at the empty space where Saturn's rings used to shine. 3 hours ago, 10,000 human ships had been fighting there. Now there was nothing but glowing debris and the fading heat signatures of destroyed vessels. Her ship, the UES Defiance, drifted silently in the darkness beyond Pluto. They had been on a routine scouting mission when the attack began. By the time they received the emergency signals, it was already too late. Captain, her communications officer, spoke with a shaking voice. I'm getting one last transmission from Earth. Command, Sarah nodded. She already knew what it would say. The Zephyrian Empire had been moving toward Earth for 6 months. Humanity had thrown everything they had at the alien fleet, ships, weapons, soldiers, everything. It hadn't been enough. The message crackled through the speakers. Admiral Morrison's voice was tired and filled with pain. All defensive fleets destroyed. Enemy approaching Earth. Estimate 12 hours. Until the end. To any human ships still out there, remember us, avenge us if you can. The transmission ended with static. Sarah looked around her bridge. 200 crew members were all that remained of humanity's once mighty space navy. Her ship was old, built 30 years ago, when humans still thought they could win this war through normal means. Defiance had thick armor and powerful engines, but compared to Zephyrian technology, it might as well have been made of paper. Captain, what are your orders? Asked Commander Torres, her second in command. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Through the main screen she could see distant flashes of light near Earth. The enemy was beginning their final attack. Soon there would be no more humans anywhere in the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire controlled 40,000 star systems. They had been conquering the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Every species they met faced the same choice: surrender and become slaves, or fight and be destroyed completely. Humans had chosen to fight. For 50 years, humanity had held them back. Human ships were tough and human soldiers were brave, but the Empire had technology that seemed like magic. Their ships could disappear and reappear anywhere they wanted. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. Their shields could stop any attack humans could make. Status report, Sarah said finally. All systems working, Captain, replied Lieutenant Kim from the engineering station. We have full fuel, ammunition, and supplies for 6 months. Long-range sensors show no other human ships anywhere in the system, added the sensor officer. We appear to be alone. Alone? The last human warship in the galaxy. Sarah had trained her whole life to command a vessel like this, but she had never imagined she would be the final captain of the final ship. She thought about her family back on Earth, her husband Mark and their 2 children, Emily and Jake. Mark had wanted to evacuate to one of the outer colonies, but Sarah had convinced him to stay. She told him the fleet would protect Earth. She had been wrong. Captain, we're receiving a wideband transmission from the enemy fleet. Communications officer announced. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image of a Zephyrian commander. The alien looked like a tall, thin human, but its skin was silver and its eyes were completely black. When it spoke, its voice sounded like multiple people talking at once. Attention, remaining human vessel. You are alone. Your species is extinct. Your resistance is meaningless. Surrender immediately, and you will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire. Sarah stood up slowly. Open a channel. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship. Defiance, I have a message for your Empire. She paused, making sure every word would be clear. Go to hell, she gestured to. Cut the transmission. The alien's face disappeared from the screen. Ma'am. Torres whispered, they have 500 ships. We have one. I know exactly how many ships they have. Commander. Sarah walked to the tactical display, showing the enemy fleet, the Zephyrian. Vessels were massive, each 1-3 times larger than the Defiance. They moved in perfect formation like a school of deadly fish swimming through space. She studied their movement patterns. Empire always attacked the same way. They would surround their target, destroy all defenses systematically, then capture or eliminate any survivors. It was efficient and it always worked. But Sarah noticed something strange. The enemy ships were moving slowly toward Earth. They weren't in any hurry. Why would they be? They had already won. Humanity was finished. That gave her an idea. Crazy, impossible idea. Navigation, plot a course for the asteroid belt, maximum speed, Captain. The navigator looked confused. That's toward the enemy fleet. I know where it is, Ensign. But Captain Torres stepped closer. We can't fight 500 ships. Even if we surprise them, even if we get lucky, we'll barely scratch one of them before they destroy us. Sarah turned to look at her crew. These men and women had served with her for 3 years. They trusted her. They deserved to know what she was thinking. You're right, Commander. We can't fight 500 ships and win, but we're not going to fight them. Not yet. She pointed at the tactical display. The Empire thinks they've won. They think the war is over. That makes them predictable. She highlighted several points on the display. Look at their formation. It's perfect for attacking a planet, but not for chasing a single ship. And look where they're going, straight to Earth. On the most direct route. I don't understand, Captain. They want to finish this quickly and cleanly. One final battle to destroy the last human world. Then they can move on to conquer the next galaxy. But what if we don't let them finish cleanly? What if we make them chase us? Lieutenant Kim spoke up from engineering. Captain, even if we could outrun them, where would we go? Every human colony has been destroyed. There's nowhere left. Sarah smiled for the first time in days. It wasn't a happy smile. We're not running away from them, Lieutenant. We're going to lead them exactly where we want them to go. She touched another control on the display. Computer, show me the classified on Project Prometheus. The screen filled with technical drawings and scientific data. Most of the crew had never seen these files before. Project Prometheus had been humanity's most secret weapon research program. 3 months ago, our scientists finished building something in the Jupiter system, something the Empire doesn't know about, something that could change everything. Sarah looked around at her crew. It was too dangerous to use while there were still human worlds to protect, but now she let the sentence hang in the air. Her crew was starting to understand. You're talking about using the Cascade weapon, Torres said quietly. The Empire has better shields, better weapons, better everything, but they have one weakness. They always fight the same way. They're predictable. If we can get them to follow us to Jupiter, if we can get them in exactly the right position. "It's suicide, Captain," Torres said. "Yes, it is." Sarah looked at each member of her bridge crew. "I won't order anyone to do this if you want to take the escape pods and try to hide somewhere in space. I'll understand, but I'm taking this ship to Jupiter. I'm going to make the Empire pay for what they've done." The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Lieutenant Kim spoke up. "I'm staying, Captain." "Me too," said the navigator. One by one, every crew member on the bridge volunteered to stay. Sarah felt tears in her eyes, but she didn't try to hide them. "All right then," she said, "let's go. Save the galaxy." The Defiance moved through the asteroid belt like a ghost. Captain Chen had ordered all non-essential systems shut down to reduce their energy signature. The ship was cold and dark, but they were hidden from the Empire sensors. Sarah sat in her ready room studying battle recordings from the past 50 years of war. She had watched these files hundreds of times before, but now she was looking for something different. She wasn't trying to understand how humanity had lost so many battles. She was trying to understand how they had won any battles at all. The first recording showed the Battle of Alpha Centauri 15 years ago. A human fleet of 50 ships faced 200 Xylarian vessels. By all logic, the humans should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, they held out for 6 hours and actually managed to damage several enemy ships. Sarah watched Admiral Harrison make his decision to split his fleet into 3 groups and attack from different directions simultaneously. It was a stupid move according to military textbooks. Dividing your forces when facing a superior enemy was a recipe for disaster, but it worked because the Xylarians hadn't expected it. The second recording was from the defense of New Tokyo. Captain Rodriguez had been outnumbered 10-1, but he'd won by flying his ship directly into a gas giant's atmosphere and using the storm clouds to hide his attacks. The Xylarian ships had better sensors, but the violent weather interfered with their exotic technology. Sarah paused the recording and called her science officer to the ready room. "Lieutenant Parker, I need you to analyze these battle recordings. Look for patterns in our victories." Parker was a young woman with short red hair and sharp green eyes. She had joined the fleet straight from university with degrees in xenobiology and tactical analysis. "I've already studied most of these, Captain. Our victories usually came from unconventional tactics that violated standard military doctrine." "Exactly. But why did those tactics work against the Empire?" Parker pulled up a holographic display showing Zolfirian ship formations. "From what we've observed, the Empire uses a collective intelligence system. All their ships are connected to a central command network. This allows perfect coordination, but it also means they think like a computer." Sarah finished. "They calculate the most efficient solution to every problem." "Yes, Captain, their tactics are mathematically optimal. They always choose the strategy with the highest probability of success and the lowest resource cost." Sarah stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, asteroids tumbled slowly through space, following predictable orbits that had been calculated millions of years ago. The problem with optimal strategies is that they're predictable. If you always choose the mathematically best option, your enemy can eventually figure out what you're going to do. But Captain, humans usually chose mathematically terrible options. We should have lost every battle, Sarah smiled. That's exactly why we won some of them. When you do something completely irrational, something that should fail, your enemy can't predict it because their computers never consider impossible plans. She turned back to Parker. The Empire conquered 40,000 star systems by being smarter, stronger, and more efficient than everyone else. But they've never faced an enemy crazy enough to make decisions that don't make sense. Parker looked confused. I don't understand how that helps us. Captain, we're still just one ship against 500. Because I'm going to do something so stupid, so impossible that their computers won't even consider it as a possibility. Sarah brought up a tactical display of the Jupiter system. I'm going to lead their entire fleet into a trap using bait they can't resist. What kind of bait? The last human ship, apparently crippled and desperate, trying to reach a secret base. Sarah explained her plan. The Defiance would begin broadcasting false distress signals, claiming engine damage and life support failures. They would leave a trail of debris, suggesting the ship was falling apart. The course would lead toward Jupiter, specifically to the area where Project Prometheus waited. The Empire will want to capture us alive. Sarah continued. They'll want to study our ship and interrogate the crew to understand why humans were so difficult to conquer. They won't just destroy us from a distance. Parker looked skeptical. But Captain, our ship really will be damaged. To make the deception convincing, we'll have to actually disable some systems, and Jupiter's radiation field will interfere with our electronics. That's the beautiful part, Lieutenant. The same radiation that will hurt us will completely scramble their exotic technology. Their ships are designed for efficiency in normal space. They're not built to handle chaotic environments. Sarah brought up technical specifications for both human and Zephyrian vessels. Human ships were overbuilt and redundant, designed by engineers who expected everything to break down eventually. Multiple backup systems, thick shielding, and simple technology that could function in extreme conditions. Zephyrian ships were elegant and precise. Their technology was based on quantum manipulation and exotic matter. It was incredibly powerful, but it required stable conditions to function properly. Jupiter storms create massive electromagnetic interference, Sarah explained. Their phase shift drives won't work reliably. Their gravity weapons will be unstable. Their shields will fluctuate, while our old-fashioned fusion engines and projectile weapons will work fine. Parker realized exactly we'll be fighting them in an environment where human technology has the advantage. Parker still looked worried. But, Captain, even if everything works perfectly, even if we disable half their fleet, there will still be hundreds of ships left. How do we destroy all of them? Sarah's expression became grim. We don't destroy them with weapons, Lieutenant. We erase them from existence. She activated a classified file that required her command codes and biometric scan. The holographic display showed technical specifications for the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever created. The quantum cascade generator, Parker whispered. Our scientists spent 10 years building it. The theory is simple. Convince matter that it never existed in The first place, create a bubble of nothingness that expands at light speed, erasing everything it touches. Parker studied the technical data. Her face went pale as she understood the implications. Captain, this weapon requires the generating ship to be at the center of the cascade. There's no way to trigger it remotely. Whoever activates it will be the first thing erased, I know. And the power requirements are enormous. We'd have to channel the energy through our main reactor, our engines, and every system on the ship. The Defiance would be torn apart just from the power surge even before the cascade begins. I know that too. Parker sat down heavily in her chair. You're talking about suicide, Captain. Sarah nodded. The Empire thinks they've won because they destroyed all our fleets and conquered all our worlds. But they made one mistake. They let one human ship survive, one ship with 200 people who have nothing left to lose. She turned off the holographic display and looked directly at Parker. The Empire rules through fear. For 1,000 years, no species has been able to seriously hurt them. They've become arrogant. They think they're invincible. Sarah's voice became hard. I'm going to prove them wrong. When their 9th conquest fleet disappears completely, every enslaved species in the galaxy will know that the Empire can bleed. Parker was quiet for a long moment, processing everything she had learned. How long do we have to prepare? She finally asked. 18 hours until we begin broadcasting. The distress signals, the Empire fleet, should reach Jupiter in about 60 hours. Sarah stood up. I need you to work with engineering to modify our systems. We need to make this deception perfect. What should I tell the crew? Sarah paused at the door to her ready room. Tell them we're going to do something that's never been done before. Tell them we're going to make the Empire remember our names. After Parker left, Sarah remained alone with her thoughts. She thought about her husband and children back on Earth. By now, they were probably dead. Empire never left survivors when they conquered a world, but their deaths would not be meaningless. The Cascade weapon would destroy the Empire's most powerful fleet. Rebellions that followed would free billions of enslaved beings across the galaxy. 200 humans against 40,000 star systems. The odds were impossible. That's exactly why it might work. The Defiance limped through space, trailing vapor and debris. To anyone watching, the ship looked like it was falling apart. Smoke poured from damaged sections. The engines sputtered and misfired, and emergency lights flashed along the hull. It was all fake, but it looked completely real. Captain Chen watched the performance from her bridge. Her crew had spent 12 hours carefully damaging their own ship. They'd vented atmosphere from empty sections, shut down non-critical systems, and even fired a few shots at their own armor plating to create convincing scorch marks. Engineering report, Sarah called out. We're running on emergency power only. Lieutenant Kim replied, main engines are operating at 30% capacity, just like you ordered. Life support is fluctuating but stable. From the outside, we look like we're barely holding together. Perfect. Communications begin. Broadcasting our distress signal. The communications officer activated a pre-recorded message that would repeat every 10 minutes on all frequencies. Mayday, Mayday, this is UES Defiance. We have suffered critical damage to engines and life support. Attempting to reach. Emergency supplies at coordinates. The message gave a location deep in the Jupiter system, near one of the gas giant smaller moons Sarah had chosen. Those coordinates carefully, according to their fake distress call, there was a secret human supply depot hidden there. It was exactly the kind of story that would interest the Empire. A chance to discover humanity's hidden resources and capture the last human ship intact. Captain, the sensor officer announced. I'm detecting movement from the Empire fleet. They're changing course. Sarah felt a moment of satisfaction. The trap was working. How long until they reach us at their current speed? Approximately 18 hours. But Captain, they're not coming directly at us. They're spreading out into a search pattern. Sarah nodded. The Empire wasn't stupid. They knew this could be a trap. But their arrogance would work against them. They couldn't resist the chance to capture the final human survivors. Maintain course for Jupiter, keep the distress signal broadcasting, and remember everyone, we're desperate. Refugees, not soldiers, act the part. The next several hours passed slowly. The Defiance continued its fake journey toward Jupiter, leaving a trail of debris and electromagnetic signatures that told a convincing story. According to their false evidence, the ship was losing power, running out of air, and barely staying together. The Empire fleet followed at a distance, like predators stalking wounded prey. Sarah spent the time reviewing intelligence reports about Zalarian tactics. The Empire always used overwhelming force, but they also preferred to capture technology and prisoners when possible. They would want to board the Defiance and take the crew alive for interrogation. That was exactly what Sarah was counting on. Captain, Commander Torres approached her chair. The crew is asking questions. They know we're heading toward Jupiter, but they don't understand why. Some of them think we're really running away. Sarah looked around the bridge. Her officers were trying to look busy, but she could see the worry in their eyes. They trusted her, but they were scared. Attention all hands, Sarah announced over the ship's intercom. This is the Captain. I know many of you are confused about our current mission. I know some of you think we're retreating. She paused, making sure she had everyone's attention. We are not retreating. We are setting up the most important ambush in human history. In approximately 12 hours, we will engage the entire Empire fleet in battle. We will be outnumbered 500 to 1. We will almost certainly die. The bridge was completely silent. Sarah could hear the hum of the engines and the whisper of air recycling through the vents. But we will not die for nothing. We will take the enemy with us, and we will show the galaxy that humans never surrender. I need every one of you to trust me for 12 more hours. Can you do that? Responses came from all over the ship. Yes, Captain, we're with you. Let's make them pay. Sarah felt proud of her crew, but also guilty. These people had volunteered to follow her on what they knew was a suicide mission. The least she could do was give them a chance to understand why. Commander Torres, Lieutenant Parker, report to my ready room. Bring the senior staff. 10 minutes later, Sarah's most trusted officers gathered around the conference table. She activated the holographic display and showed them the real plan. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Project Prometheus. The technical specifications for the quantum cascade generator appeared in the air above the table. Several officers gasped when they realized what they were looking at. Our mission is to lead the Empire fleet. To these coordinates, Sarah pointed to a location deep within Jupiter's great red spot. The cascade generator is hidden inside the storm. When we activate it, everything within one light tower will be erased from existence, including us, Torres said quietly. Yes, including us. Lieutenant Parker leaned forward. Captain, I've been thinking about the power requirements. Even if we channel everything through our reactor, we might not have enough energy to trigger the cascade. Sarah had been worried about the same thing. The cascade generator needed an enormous amount of power to function, more than any single ship could provide. That's why we're going to use Jupiter itself, she explained. The Great Red Spot is a massive electromagnetic storm. If we can tap into that energy and direct it through our ship systems, we'll be using our entire vessel as a focusing lens, the chief engineer realized. Captain, that will tear us apart even faster. I know, but it's the only way to guarantee the cascade will work. Sarah looked at each of her officers. These were good people, skilled professionals who had served with distinction. They deserved better than this. I want everyone to understand this is not a direct order. Anyone who wants to leave can take an escape pod when we reach Jupiter. You can hide in the outer system until this is over. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Finally, Commander Torres broke the silence. With respect, Captain, we're not going anywhere. If this is humanity's last stand, we want to be part of it. The others nodded in agreement. Sarah felt tears in her eyes, but she forced them back. There would be time for emotion later. All right then, let's discuss the tactical situation. The holographic display showed the Jupiter system in detail. The gas giant's powerful magnetic field and radiation belts would interfere with Zephyrian technology, but it would also make conditions extremely dangerous for human ships. The Empire fleet will try to surround us when we reach Jupiter, Sarah explained. They'll want to prevent our escape and force us to surrender. But they won't expect us to fly directly into the Great Red Spot because it's suicide, Torres pointed out. Exactly. Their computers will calculate that. We're trying to hide in the storm clouds, not destroy ourselves. By the time they realize what we're really doing, it will be too late. Lieutenant Kim studied the engineering data. Captain, I can modify our engines to survive in Jupiter's atmosphere for maybe 10 minutes. After that, the pressure and radiation will crush us. How long do we need to activate the cascade? According to these specifications, about 3 minutes once we're in position. Sarah nodded. That should be enough time. What about the Empire ships? Their exotic technology won't work properly in the storm, Parker added. But they have conventional backup systems. They'll be able to follow us for a while. Good. I want them close when the cascade activates. Sarah turned off the holographic display and looked at her officers one last time. This plan depends on perfect timing and a lot of luck. If anything goes wrong, if the cascade doesn't work, then we'll have died for nothing. Are you all sure you want to do this? The response was immediate and unanimous. Every officer volunteered to stay. Then let's get back to work. We have 8 Hours to prepare. As her officers filed out of the ready room, Sarah remained behind to study the tactical display one more time. The Empire fleet was getting closer, following their fake distress signals toward Jupiter. Soon, the most powerful military force in the galaxy would discover what happened when you pushed humans too far. They would learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was one with nothing left to lose. Sarah thought about Earth, probably already conquered and destroyed. She thought about the billions of humans who had died fighting this war. She thought about her family. Their deaths would be avenged. The Empire would pay for what they had done. Computer, she said quietly, record. Personal log, final entry, recording. Captain, to anyone who finds this log, we tried to do the right thing. We tried to save as many people as we could. I hope it was enough. She paused. End. Recording. Outside her window, Jupiter grew larger. As they approached, the massive planets, swirling storms looked like a gateway to hell. That was exactly where she was, taking the Empire fleet. Jupiter filled the view screen like an angry god. The massive planet's great red spot swirled with storms that had been raging for centuries, a hurricane larger than Earth itself. Lightning flashed in the deep clouds, and radiation levels were climbing rapidly. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the Empire fleet close in around them. 500 alien ships moved in perfect formation, their exotic hulls gleaming in Jupiter's reflected light. They had been following the human vessel for 6 hours, staying just out of weapons range. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Empire fleet, the communications officer announced. Put it through. The main screen switched to show a Zephyrian commander. This one looked different from the others Sarah had seen. Older, with silver markings on its face that probably indicated high rank. Human vessel. This is Fleet Commander Zethkar of the 9th Conquest Fleet. You will surrender immediately. Your species is extinct. Your resistance is meaningless. Sarah stepped forward. This is Captain Sarah Chen. We're not surrendering. We're going home. The alien tilted its head, a gesture that might have indicated confusion. There is no human home to return to. We have eliminated all your worlds. You missed one. Sarah gestured toward Jupiter. Our emergency supply depot is waiting for us in the outer atmosphere. We have enough resources there to last for years. It was a complete lie, but Sarah sold it convincingly. She needed the Empire fleet to believe there really was something valuable hidden in Jupiter's storms. You are attempting deception, the alien commander replied. Our sensors detect no artificial structures in the Jupiter system. Of course you don't. We built it to be undetectable. Human stealth technology might be primitive compared to yours, but it works. Sarah could see the alien considering this. The Empire had been surprised by human tactics before. It was possible that humanity had hidden resources they didn't know about. You will allow our ships to escort you to this supposed base. If you are lying, you will be destroyed. Fine by us. Just try to keep up. Sarah cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All hands prepare for atmospheric entry. This is going to get rough. The Defiance began descending toward Jupiter's outer atmosphere. The first wisps of gas began to streak past the Viewports and the ship started to shake as it encountered atmospheric resistance. Behind them, the Empire fleet followed. In formation, their ships were larger and more advanced, but they were also more complex. The electromagnetic interference from Jupiter's storms would affect their exotic systems more than human technology. Engineering report, Sarah called out. Hull temperature rising but within acceptable limits, Lieutenant Kim replied. Engines are running hot but stable. Radiation shielding is holding. Good, take us deeper. The Defiance plunged into Jupiter's atmosphere like a falling star. The ship's hull began to glow from friction. Heating and the constant shaking made it difficult to stand. Outside the windows, the sky changed from black to orange to deep red. Captain, the sensor officer shouted. Over the noise, the Empire ships are having trouble. Several of them are dropping back. Sarah smiled grimly. Jupiter's storms were interfering with the aliens' phase shift drives and gravity manipulators. Their ships could still fly, but not as efficiently as usual. How many are still following us? About 200, Captain. The rest are staying in high orbit. That was better than Sarah had hoped. 200 enemy ships were still overwhelming odds, but at least they wouldn't face the entire fleet. Navigation, set course for the Great Red Spot. Maximum speed. Captain, are you sure? The storm conditions there are, I know exactly what the storm conditions are, Ensign. That why we're going there. The Defiance turned toward the massive hurricane that dominated Jupiter's southern hemisphere. The Great Red Spot was a storm system 3 times larger than Earth, with wind speeds exceeding 400 km per hour. The electromagnetic interference there would be incredible. It was also where Project Prometheus waited. Lieutenant Parker, Sarah called out. Activate the cascade generators. Targeting system, we need to be precise about our entry point. Parker's hands flew over her console. Cascade generator responding. I'm getting telemetry from the device. It's intact and ready for activation. The quantum cascade generator had been hidden in the Great Red Spot for 3 months, suspended in the storm by magnetic fields and protected by the most advanced shielding humanity could build. It was a weapon of last resort, designed to be used only if Earth itself was threatened. Now Earth was gone, but the weapon remained. Captain, Commander Torres approached her chair. The crew is asking about escape pods. When do we launch them? Sarah had been dreading this moment. She had promised her officers that anyone who wanted to leave could take an escape pod before the final attack, but the truth was there was nowhere for them to go. The escape pods wouldn't survive in Jupiter's atmosphere, and the Empire ships would destroy any that tried to reach orbit. Tell the crew the truth, Commander. The escape pods won't work in these conditions. Anyone who leaves the ship will die just as quickly as those who stay. Torres nodded grimly. I'll pass the word, Captain. The ship shook violently as they entered the outer edges of the Great Red Spot. Lightning flashed all around them, and the hull temperature readings climbed dangerously high. The Defiance was tough, but it wasn't designed for extended flight in a gas giant's atmosphere. Empire ships are still following us, the sensor officer reported, but they're having serious problems. I'm reading multiple system failures across their fleet. How many are left? Approximately 150. Ship's captain. The rest have turned back. Sarah felt a surge of satisfaction. The Empire's technological superiority was working against them in Jupiter's chaotic environment. Their ships were too sophisticated, too dependent on exotic systems that couldn't function properly in the storm. Engineering, how long can we survive in these conditions? Lieutenant Kim checked his readings, maybe 8 minutes. Captain, after that the atmospheric pressure will crush our hull. That should be enough time. Parker, what's our distance to the Cascade generator? 15,000 km and closing. We should reach the activation point in 4 minutes. Sarah opened a channel to address the entire ship. All hands, this is the captain. In 3 minutes, we will activate the quantum cascade generator. The weapon will erase everything within one light hour of Jupiter, including us. She paused to let that sink in. I want everyone to know you have served with honor. You have given your lives to save billions of beings across the galaxy. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Responses came from all over the ship. It's been an honor, Captain. Thank you for letting us be part of this. See you on the other side. Sarah felt tears running down her cheeks, but she kept her voice steady. 2 minutes to activation. All stations prepare for quantum cascade initiation. The Defiance continued its descent into the heart of the Great Red Spot. The storm raged around them with incredible fury, but the ship held together through sheer determination and human engineering. Behind them, the remaining Empire ships followed in a rough formation. Their sleek hulls were scarred and blackened by the atmospheric entry, and many of their exotic systems had failed completely. But they were still coming. 1 minute to activation point, Parker announced. Sarah watched the countdown timer on her screen. In 60 seconds she would give the order that would end her life and the lives of everyone aboard the Defiance, but it would also destroy the most powerful fleet the Empire had ever assembled. Cascade generator locked onto target. Parker reported, all systems ready for activation. Empire ships are closing in, Captain. Torres added, range 5,000 km, perfect. Sarah wanted the alien fleet as close as possible when the cascade activated. The more ships they destroyed, the bigger the message they would send to the rest of the galaxy. 30 seconds to activation. Sarah thought about her husband and children one last time. She hoped they had died quickly when the Empire attacked Earth. She hoped they knew she loved them. 10 seconds. The Empire ships were firing now, their energy beams lancing through the storm toward the Defiance, the human ships. Shields flared and sparked under the assault. 5 seconds. Sarah took a deep breath and placed her hand on the activation control. 4, 3, 2, 1. She pressed the button. For a moment nothing happened, then reality began to tear apart. The quantum cascade generator activated with a flash of light that made the sun look dim. Space itself began to unravel in a perfect sphere centered on Jupiter's Great Red Spot. The cascade expanded at the speed of light, erasing everything it touched. The Defiance was the first to go, simply ceasing to exist as if it had never been built. Then the Empire ships vanished, one by one, as the expanding bubble of nothingness swallowed them. In her final moment, Sarah saw the cascades spreading outward like ripples on a pond. She smiled as the light reached her. The Empire would remember this day. The quantum cascade spread outward from Jupiter like a perfect sphere of nothingness where it touched matter. That matter simply stopped existing. There was no explosion, no debris, no energy release. Objects caught by the cascade didn't get destroyed, they were erased from reality itself. The UES Defiance vanished first, along with Captain Sarah Chen and her crew of 200 volunteers. Then the bubble expanded to swallow the Empire ships that had followed them into the Great Red Spot. 150 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy disappeared without a trace, but the cascade didn't stop there. It continued, growing at the speed of light, consuming everything within a radius that eventually reached 1 full light hour. Asteroids, gas clouds, debris from ancient battles, all of it simply ceased to exist. Jupiter itself survived because the cascade generator had been positioned in the outer atmosphere, but a massive chunk of the gas giant's southern hemisphere was gone. The Great Red Spot, a storm that had raged for centuries, was now a perfect spherical void in the planet's swirling clouds. The remaining Empire ships, those that had stayed in high orbit, could only watch in shock as their entire forward fleet disappeared. 350 vessels had been pursuing the human ship. Now only empty space remained where they had been. Fleet Admiral Ketmore stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring at sensor readings that made no sense. According to his instruments, 150 warships had simply stopped existing. There were no energy signatures, no debris fields, no indication that a battle had even taken place. Status report, he ordered his tactical officer. Sir, all ships in the pursuit fleet have been lost, no survivors detected, no distress signals received. The area around Jupiter shows massive spatial distortion, but we cannot determine the cause. Admiral Ketmore had served the Empire for 200 years. He had conquered 17 star systems and eliminated dozens of species. He had never seen anything like this. Could the humans have developed a new weapon? Unknown, sir. Our intelligence indicated that all human research facilities were destroyed. They should not have possessed technology capable of this level of destruction. The Admiral studied the tactical display. The Empire's 9th conquest fleet had been the most powerful military force ever assembled. 500 ships carrying planet-killer weapons and reality-warping technology. Now less than half remained. Send a message to Imperial Command. Inform them that we have encountered unexpected resistance. Request immediate reinforcements. But the Admiral knew that reinforcements would take months to arrive. More importantly, he realized that the Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for destruction. The quantum cascade's energy signature propagated through subspace at speeds faster than light. Within hours, every species in the galaxy detected the exotic radiation pattern. Most didn't understand what they were seeing, but they all recognized that something unprecedented had happened. On the slave world of Kepler 442b, a draconian resistance leader named Vexstar analyzed the energy readings with growing excitement. For 30 years, his people had been crushed under Empire rule. Their military had been destroyed, their Cities bombed into rubble. Their leaders executed. But this new signal changed everything. Brothers and sisters, Vexstar. Broadcast to hidden resistance cells. Across the planet, the impossible has happened. Someone has bloodied the Empire's nose, their ninth fleet. The same fleet that destroyed our home. World has been eliminated. Similar messages were being transmitted on thousands of enslaved worlds. Cypherian Empire ruled through fear and the belief that resistance was futile. For 1,000 years, no species had been able to inflict serious damage on their forces. Now, in a single moment, one human ship had erased their most powerful fleet from existence. Within days, rebellions erupted across the galaxy. The Draconians seized their orbital shipyards. The crystalline beings of Rigel 7 shut down the Empire's mining operations. On the water world of Oceanus, the aquatic natives began imperial installations with weapons they had hidden for decades. The Empire tried to respond, but their forces were spread thin across 40,000 star systems. They had relied on intimidation and overwhelming superiority to maintain control. When that superiority was proven false, their entire system began to collapse. Fleet Admiral Kethmore received reports of uprisings on hundreds of worlds. His remaining ships were being recalled to protect core Imperial systems, leaving the outer territories in chaos. Sir, his communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from the Terran system. The Admiral was confused. According to all reports, the Terran system had been sterilized. Earth and all human colonies should be lifeless rocks. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image of a human woman in military uniform. She appeared to be standing in what looked like an underground bunker. This is General Lisa Morrison, commander of the Earth Resistance, to any Imperial forces still in our system. You have 10 hours to withdraw beyond the heliopause. After that, we will consider you hostile targets. Admiral Kethmore leaned forward. Impossible. Our forces reported complete planetary sterilization. The human smiled coldly. Your forces lied to you, Admiral. We've been hiding in underground cities and asteroid bases for months. You destroyed our surface installations and killed millions of our people, but you didn't kill all of us. Even if some humans survived, you cannot resist the Empire's power. Really, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like one human ship just erased your entire Ninth Fleet. That was Captain Chen and the Defiance. By the way, we're very proud of them. The Admiral felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. The Empire's intelligence had been completely wrong about human capabilities and survival. You cannot have many ships remaining, he said, trying to sound confident. We have enough. More importantly, we have something you don't, allies. Every enslaved species in the galaxy is watching this conversation. They're seeing that the invincible Empire can be defeated, as if to prove her point. The communication screen split to show similar transmissions from dozens of other worlds. Draconian, Rigelian, Oceanic, and other species leaders were all making similar declarations of independence. General Morrison's voice cut through the chaos. Here's what's going to happen, Admiral. The Empire's reign of terror is over. We're forming a galactic liberation alliance, and our first goal is to free every world you've enslaved. You cannot succeed, even if you have Survived even if the other species. Rebel. The Empire still controls thousands of fleets, but you don't control fear anymore. Morrison replied, for 1,000 years. Species surrendered to you because as thought resistance was hopeless. Now they know better. They've seen what happens when someone fights back with nothing left to lose. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Kethmore staring at a blank screen. Around the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out as Imperial commanders faced rebellions they had never anticipated. On the former slave world of Vega Prime, Draconian fighters emerged from hidden bunkers to attack Empire installations. On the mining world of Asteroid Station, 7 crystalline workers used industrial equipment to tear apart Imperial ships. In the water world of Oceanus, aquatic natives launched coordinated strikes against underwater bases. The Empire tried to respond with their usual tactics, overwhelming force and brutal retaliation. But their fleets were scattered and their morale was shaken. For the first time in their history, they were fighting an enemy that wasn't afraid of them. Years later, when the Galactic Liberation War finally ended with the complete collapse of the Zephyrian Empire, historians would mark the Battle of Jupiter as the turning point. They would study the tactical recordings and wonder how 200 humans in an obsolete ship had accomplished what entire civilizations could not. The answer was simpler than most people understood. Captain Sarah Chen and her crew had done something that the Empire's computers couldn't calculate or predict. They had chosen to die rather than surrender. In the final analysis of the war, alien scholars would note that the Zephyrian Empire fell because they made one critical error. They believed that all intelligent species were fundamentally rational and would choose survival over principle. They had never encountered humans before. The monument built on the ruins of Jupiter's Great Red Spot bore a simple inscription in hundreds of languages in memory of the UES Defiance and her crew, who proved that the most dangerous enemy is one with nothing left to lose. Below that in smaller text was Captain Chen's final message. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance. We are the last of humanity, and we are taking you with us. Remember our name. When your empire falls, the Empire had fallen just as she predicted. And across the galaxy, in the songs and stories of 1,000 liberated worlds, her name was remembered. The humans had gotten the last laugh. After all,